third temple will soon be built in Jerusalem, as prophecy declares. During the 7 years of tribulation, the temple will already be erected, and the priestly service, led by the descendants of Aaron, will be restored. Today in Israel, they are already preparing for that moment. They have made most of the temple utensils, including the menorah, the golden candelabrum, the table of the bread of the presence, the altar of incense, and the priestly garments, and have identified the priests of the lineage of Aaron, who are being instructed to exercise their ministry once the third temple is erected. Considering all this, a troubling question arises. How will the Jews manage to build their temple if today the Temple Mount, where the first and second temples were built, is occupied by Muslim mosques, considered the third holiest site in Islam, from where, according to their tradition, Muhammad ascended to heaven? Who will be the leader capable of persuading the Muslims to cede that land to the Jews so they can build the third temple? And what will happen to the mosques that stand there today? Dear listener, in this video we will be answering these questions and seeing how the Jews will rebuild their temple on the Temple Mount. I invite you to watch this video until the end, because what I am going to reveal about this topic will surprise you. Before we continue, I want to share some good news. By the grace of God, we have created a prayer channel, and you can find us on YouTube as Altar of Prayer. Every morning we share prayers that I'm sure will be a great blessing to your life. If you are going through difficult times, if there are problems in your family or situations that only you know about and you don't know who to tell, I invite you to join us in prayer. Express to the Lord everything that is in your heart. He is there to listen to you, give you strength, comfort, and fill you with that peace that surpasses all understanding. So don't hesitate. Join this beautiful family in Christ. We will leave the link to the channel in the description of this video. Let's get started. The third temple has throbbed in the heart of the Jewish people for more than a millennium. It is not a modern idea or a passing dream. It is the living heritage of a faith that refuses to die. Since ancient times, rabbis have proclaimed that the temple will be rebuilt because God so commanded. Rabbi Chaim Richman of the Temple Institute stated, "The reconstruction of the temple is not an option. It is a spiritual obligation. It does not depend on governments, but on the obedience of the people of Israel." But the challenge isn't in the architecture or the resources. The real problem lies in where it should be built. According to the Torah and Jewish tradition, the temple can only be built on Mount Moriah in the heart of Jerusalem. This is the same mountain where Abraham offered Isaac, where David erected the altar, and where Solomon built the first temple. It is the point where heaven and earth met, and where, according to the Hebrew faith, the glory of God will once again be revealed. However, this holy site is not under Jewish control. At the top of Mount Moriah stand two of Islam's most imposing monuments, the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. Islam considers this site, which it calls Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, to be the third holiest place in the Muslim world, after Mecca and Medina. Any attempt to alter, demolish, or excavate its land would be considered blasphemy and a provocation of war. Therefore, every time an Israeli politician climbs the Temple Mount, the Muslim world reacts with fury. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan warned, "Jerusalem belongs to Islam. Al-Aqsa Mosque is our red line. If Israel touches a single stone of the mosque, the Muslim world will rise as one." The late Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was even more direct. "If the Jews dare to approach the Temple Mount or rebuild their temple, we will open the gates of hell." And the chief imam of Al-Aqsa repeated from his pulpit, "No Jew has a right to an inch of this land. Al-Aqsa is not shared, is not negotiated, and will never be touched." These words are not mere political declarations, but religious oaths, endorsed by entire nations and organizations that consider the defense of Al-Aqsa a sacred cause. Analyst and journalist Dennis Ross, former advisor to the U.S. State Department on Near Eastern affairs, warned in an interview with Foreign Affairs, "There is no other place on earth where a single action can trigger a global conflict like on the Temple Mount. The religious and nationalist tension surrounding it is a powder keg for humanity. That's why experts agree that the Temple Mount Esplanade is the most sensitive spot on the planet. A single moved stone, an excavation, or even a rumor can unleash a war of global proportions. And yet, the rabbis continue to assure us that reconstruction will occur. The people of Israel await the moment when Mount Moriah will once again be the place where God's presence is manifested. Meanwhile, Islam stands firm, declaring that it will never allow a Jewish stone to be placed on that soil. Jerusalem lives in this tension, a city divided between two fires, a mountain that belongs to two religions, and a prophetic silence that is broken with each new conflict. Mount Moriah is not just a hill, it is the spiritual heart of the world, the point where who has the right to worship and who holds authority over faith will be defined. There converge the promises of Abraham, the prayers of David, and the tears of generations who still cry out, "May it be rebuilt soon in our days." Because the conflict is neither political nor cultural, it is spiritual. And although men argue over their rights, in the heavens, the fulfillment of a divine plan is being prepared that will move the stones of the mountain and shake the nations. Now here arises one of the most challenging and controversial questions in all of biblical eschatology. How could the third temple be built if the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock remain standing on Mount Moriah? How will God open a space that seems impossible? And what do Jewish rabbis think will happen to this Islamic enclosure that today dominates Jerusalem's holy esplanade? In Jerusalem, the leaders of the Temple Institute have been clear. It will not be human violence that paves the way, but the hand of the Creator. Rabbi Chaim Richman, founder of the institution, declared in 2023, "God doesn't need dynamite or wars to open his mountain. He can move a stone or send a wind, an earthquake, or a sign from heaven. When his time comes, the place will cleanse itself." These words reflect the conviction that the rebuilding of the temple will be a sovereign act of divine intervention, not a military conquest. Rabbi Yisrael Ariel, a former member of the paratroopers brigade that liberated Jerusalem in 1967, put it more forcefully. The Al-Aqsa Mosque will fall without human intervention. It will be God who removes it, just as he removed the walls of Jericho. Nothing impure will remain in the place where he will dwell again. These statements, echoed by several Torah scholars, are part of an ancient rabbinic tradition that teaches that the Temple Mount will be cleansed by God himself before the coming of the Messiah. Rabbi Shlomo Goren, former chief rabbi of Israel and a key figure in the reunification of Jerusalem in 1967, wrote, "When the time comes for the third temple, the Eternal One will prepare the place. Mount Moriah will be cleansed, and what is an obstacle today will be dust." According to this view, the mosque's collapse was not the result of weapons, but rather an act of God. Some speak of an earthquake, others of heavenly fire or a natural collapse. The world will interpret it as an accident, but Israel will see it as a sign. In the Jewish mystical tradition, Midrash Tanchuma, it is taught that the Shekinah, the glory of God, will again manifest itself on the mountain when it is purified by fire or earthquake. Thus, for many rabbis, the disappearance of the mosque will not be a political or warlike act, but rather a heavenly intervention confirming that the prophetic time has arrived. However, beyond rabbinical interpretations, geopolitical experts and Christian theologians have identified three possible natural or human-made scenarios that could providentially allow Mount Moriah to be freed for reconstruction. First, experts agree that the Temple Mount could be released by a devastating natural event, a major earthquake. For decades, Israeli scientists have warned that the city of Jerusalem sits atop a seismically active zone known as the Jordan Valley Fault, an extension of the Great Syrian-African Rift System, which runs from Syria to the Red Sea. This fault literally runs beneath the foundations of the Holy City, making Jerusalem one of the most seismic vulnerable areas in the Middle East. Professor Avi Shapira, former director of Israel's National Seismic Commission, stated in a 2023 report, "Historical records confirm this threat. In 31 before Christ, an earthquake destroyed Jericho and caused severe damage to Jerusalem. In 749 after Christ, another earthquake devastated much of northern Israel and Syria, and according to Byzantine chronicles, even the walls of the sacred mountain cracked. Another earthquake devastated much of northern Israel and Syria, and according to Byzantine chronicles, even the walls of the sacred mountain cracked. And in 1927, a 6.2 magnitude earthquake struck the Dead Sea region and destroyed buildings in Nablus and Jerusalem. Experts say the natural cycle indicates the area is close to another major seismic event, possibly the most destructive in millennia. Dr. Shmuel Marco, a geophysicist at Tel Aviv University, wrote in seismological research letters that the Temple Mount is crisscrossed by invisible fractures resulting from ancient movements of the Earth's crust. These fractures, combined with the underground tunnels that have been dug over centuries, weaken the stability of the ground on which the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock stand. If an earthquake of magnitude 7.0 or greater were to strike Jerusalem, engineers agree that the mosque could collapse completely or partially. Islamic structures built over 1,000 years ago lack modern seismic reinforcements. A tremor lasting just a few seconds would be enough to crack their foundations. Engineer Eli Shukron, who worked for 20 years excavating the Temple Mount, warned, "If an earthquake reaches magnitude 6.5 or 7, the walls of the mount would be under tremendous pressure. The ancient buildings would not withstand it." In that scenario, Israel would not be blamed for aggression or religious desecration. The world would interpret it as a natural disaster, but for the Jewish people, it would be a supernatural sign. Second, the most likely and at the same time most dangerous scenario, a regional war in the Middle East, a conflict so devastating that it could completely alter the spiritual geography of the world. For decades, experts have warned that the region is under constant tension and that the next major confrontation will not be between two nations, but between ideological, religious, and prophetic blocs. Israeli analyst Ron Ben Yishai, a veteran war correspondent for the Yedioth Aharonoth Daily, wrote, "If a full-scale war breaks out, Jerusalem will be the epicenter. A single hit on the Temple Mount could change the religious history of the world." Israel Defense Magazine journalist Yoav Limor warned, "Jerusalem is the most vulnerable point in any war. If violence reaches the Temple Mount, no army will be able to stop the global backlash." The prophet Ezekiel in chapters 38 and 39 describes a future war known as the War of Gog and Magog, where a coalition of northern nations will march against Israel in the end times. Many theologians, including Charles Feinberg, John Walvoord, and Arnold Fruchtenbaum, identify Gog with a northern power, a reference that fits with the current military presence of Russia and Iran in Syria. Messianic theologian Dr. Fruchtenbaum wrote, "The war of Gog and Magog will not be a conventional battle, but a collision between human pride and divine intervention. Jerusalem will be the point of convergence of judgment and redemption." The Bible also warns in Zechariah chapter 12, verse 3, "And in that day I will make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All who burden themselves with it will be broken in pieces." This means that any nation that attempts to take control of Jerusalem will be broken, and modern history seems to be moving toward that fulfillment. Iran promises to liberate Jerusalem, Turkey dreams of regaining its leadership over Islam, and Russia seeks to control the energy corridor that runs through Israel. All the pieces are in motion. In such a vast conflict, the destruction of the Al-Aqsa Mosque could be accidental, but prophetically intentional. On the surface, it will appear to be a military error. In the heavens, it will be the fulfillment of God's plan. Rabbi Yisrael Ariel, founder of the Temple Institute, commented in an interview with the Jerusalem Channel, "Mount Moriah is the altar of the world. If the Creator wishes to rebuild his house, he himself will remove what hinders, even if men call it war." Rabbi Richman also declared, "The destruction will not come at Jewish hands. It will be something the world will interpret as a disaster, but for Israel's entire family, it will be the today and always." May God bless you abundantly. Therefore, if a missile or attack were to destroy the mosque, the world would be divided between those who see it as a tragedy and those who see it as a sign. The Jewish people, seeing the mountain free, could begin rebuilding the temple as an act of national and spiritual restoration. Third, the role of the Antichrist. The prophet Daniel, chapter 9, verse 27, accurately announced this more than 2,500 years ago. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall put an end to sacrifice and offering. This text is considered one of the cornerstones of biblical eschatology. Daniel speaks of a covenant with many, a 7-year treaty that will bring apparent peace to the Middle East and allow for the restoration of Jewish worship and the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. Theologian Charles Ryrie, one of the leading classical scholars, explains, "The Antichrist will present himself as a peacemaker. He will do the impossible, reconcile Jews and Muslims and open the Temple Mount. But his purpose will be usurpation, not reconciliation." In his first years in office, this leader will be seen as the savior of the world. The media will call him the architect of peace. Religious leaders will admire him as a unifier of faiths, and the people will see him as the man who achieved what no one else could. He will sign a treaty that will end the regional war and establish a new order in Jerusalem. Under his leadership, the UN, the World Islamic Council, and the Alliance of Western Powers will endorse his proposal to transform the Temple Mount into an interfaith zone, a symbol of global unity where the Jewish faith and Islam can coexist. This project, presented as a political solution, will in fact be the prelude to prophetic deception. Behind the talk of peace lies a plan for spiritual and global domination. Pastor John MacArthur describes it in powerful words: "The Antichrist will be the most brilliant politician and the most dangerous impostor. He will use religion, diplomacy, and peace to prepare his throne in the temple. The Antichrist's pact will allow what generations of Jews have hoped for: the resumption of sacrifices and the rebuilding of the temple. There will be rejoicing in Jerusalem. The rabbis will declare the fulfillment of the prophecies, the priests will retake the altar, and the Temple Institute will announce to the world that the Messianic era has begun." But the Bible warns that this reconstruction will not be the work of God, but of the deceiver. The prophet Isaiah, chapter 28, verse 15, calls this agreement a covenant with death. Let us note what the biblical account says. "We have made a covenant with death, and we have made an agreement with Sheol. When the overflowing scourge passes through, it will not come near us, because we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood we have hidden ourselves." Rabbi Yitzhak Kaduri, one of the best-known mystical voices of modern Judaism, said in 1998, "When a world leader signs peace with Israel, remember, the true Messiah does not sign treaties, he comes with redemption." Now, as we have seen, the real obstacle to the construction of the Third Temple is not the resources or the plans, but the location where it is to be built. Mount Moriah, where God's glory was once revealed, remains in the hands of Islam, but everything else is already in place. The utensils have been forged, the priests have been trained, the sacrifices have been rehearsed, the garments have been sewn according to the Torah, and the stones that will form the walls of the temple are already waiting in safekeeping. In Jerusalem, every sacred implement, every golden lamp, every instrument of divine service is prepared with meticulous precision. The Temple Institute, founded more than 3 decades ago, has reconstructed one by one the elements described in Exodus and Leviticus. The 7-branched lampstand, the altar of burnt offering, the bronze laver, the libation bowls, the high priest's garments, and even the gold plate engraved with the words, "Holiness to the Lord." Rabbi Chaim Richman, founder of the Institute, put it clearly in a recent interview: "We have everything we need to begin today. The altar is cleansed, the priests are ready, and the sacrifices can begin in a matter of hours. We are just waiting for the command." That phrase, "we are just waiting for the command," has become the echo of a generation. Rabbis repeat it with hope, the faithful whisper it in prayer, and scholars see it as confirmation that the prophetic time is being fulfilled. Rabbi Yisrael Ariel, who fought in the liberation of Jerusalem in 1967, declared, "The present generation will see the temple. No other generation has been as prepared as this one. Everything is ready. The clock of the eternal is about to strike." And while the world looks away, Jerusalem silently prepares. Every year during Passover, the priests rehearse the ritual sacrifice. The sound of the shofar resounds among the walls. The smoke of incense rises in the air, and the Levites, dressed in linen, practice the ancient ceremonies. Everything is being remade, not as a relic of the past, but as a harbinger of an approaching future. In a hidden warehouse near the Old City, the sacred objects that will once again take their place in the sanctuary are kept. The solid gold menorah, the incense altar, the sacrificial utensils, and the shofar that will be blown on the day the cornerstone is laid. Everything follows the exact measurements Moses received on Mount Sinai. But the most impressive thing isn't the objects, but the people. Hundreds of priests descended from Aaron, identified by their lineage and confirmed by genetic testing, have been trained to officiate sacrifices according to Mosaic law. These men, called Kohanim, wear white robes, perform rituals, and wait for the day when they are told, "The hour has come." Even the red heifers, an essential requirement for the purification of the temple, already exist. 5 flawless specimens were brought from Texas to Israel. They are currently being cared for under strict surveillance in a secret location. When one of them reaches 3 years of age and is sacrificed, the purification of the Temple Mount can begin. Rabbi Yaakov Heyman, president of the Temple Heritage Foundation, put it bluntly, "When the perfect heifer is offered, nothing can stop what is coming. That will be the point of no return." Israel's most influential rabbis agree. This is the generation of fulfillment. Rabbi Shmuel Eliyahu, chief rabbi of Safed, stated in 2024, "The purpose of the people of Israel's return to their land was not political, it was spiritual. We did not return to have a state, we returned to rebuild the house of the Lord." So, while governments negotiate treaties and powers discuss sanctions, a different atmosphere reigns in the halls of the Temple Institute, that of messianic expectation. There's a sense of imminence, a silent certainty that history is reaching its climax. Dr. John Walvoord, one of the most respected prophetic theologians of the 20th century, wrote, "When the temple is ready, and only the order is missing, we will know that the fulfillment of prophecy is at hand. God does not prepare his house in vain." And Pastor David Jeremiah added, "Every artifact restored in Jerusalem is a chime of the prophetic clock. When the temple is raised, the world will enter the final stretch. Everything is in its place. The gold gleams. The priests prepare. The plans rest in the Institute's archives. The altar awaits. The trumpets are tuned. The red heifers live under the sky of Israel. The people pray. The world is watching. The prophecies are aligning. Time is accelerating. Only one thing is missing: the order. That order that could come from an unexpected political decree. That order could emerge from a deceitful international agreement signed by the one the Bible calls the Antichrist. Or that order could descend directly from heaven when God so determines. But when that command is given, the ancient dust of Mount Moriah will rise once more, the sound of the shofar will resound over Jerusalem, and God's prophetic clock will mark the beginning of its final countdown. Dear brothers and sisters, what for many seems like a simple religious or territorial conflict, for us is confirmation that the Word of God never fails. Every political movement, every nation involved, every decision regarding Jerusalem is not a coincidence. It is a prophetic fulfillment. The stage is set. The protagonists are already positioning themselves, and history moves toward its final climax. Today, more than ever, we must be spiritually awake. This is not a time for lukewarmness. This is not a time for distraction. This is not a time for fear, but rather a time to trust in the one who has already written the final outcome of all things. If we see that what was announced thousands of years ago is taking shape before our eyes today, it is because our redemption is closer than ever. Christ is coming for his church. The King of Kings is at the door, and each of us must decide where we will be when heaven opens. So we come to the end of this video. I sincerely thank you for following us to the end. I invite you to share this teaching so that more people may be edified and reflect on the Word of God. See you in the next video, and may the peace of the Lord be with you and your entire family today and always. May God bless you abundantly.